Hello again, and welcome back to the living room. My name is Joe Young, and happy Mother's Day. Yes, that's right. Today is the day we celebrate our mothers and all the mothers that we know in our lives. It's an incredible, uh, must be an incredible journey to be a parent and especially a mother. And it's really just a underappreciated thing in our society. One time I told that to a group of women at a restaurant I was playing music at, and they lifted up their drinks to me and wanted to cheers and say, "Well, we just loved the music tonight." And we got to talking, and they found out that I had a daughter. And then they all said, "Yeah, we're all moms here." And I told them, I think being a mother is the most underappreciated, under recognized thing that you can be, and it's so incredibly valuable. And that's all I said. And the main woman I was sort of addressing, just tears started flooding down her face. And it was supposed to be a celebratory dinner and gathering. And then her girlfriends were like, "Oh no, what's happening? We're supposed to have a happy time." And I didn't mean to be deep or anything. I just wanted to acknowledge, but it just made me realize how much emotion is behind a mom struggling to raise her kids and keep the marriage together, or just thinking 24/7 about their child, and that journey is not lifted high enough. And that's really going to be the main point of one of the big points of the message today. I want to compare and contrast how the general public, general secular sort of way we look at mothers or motherhood. And I want to give you just a nice contrast with the way God sees mothers, the way God meant for motherhood to be acknowledged and recognized in our world, in our existence. It's a very stark contrast, unfortunately. So there's a lot of misunderstood value to being a mother. I was recently asked by a friend of mine. He said, jokingly but seriously, he said, "Why on earth would you want to have more kids? Isn't one enough?" I said, "No, I'd love to have, two or three more." And he looked so perplexed. And I expounded and I said, "Well, it fills your life with joy. It gives you meaning. They can do and be more than you were ever able to. Their legacy goes on past your own life. Yes, it's a lot of sacrifice, but they might contribute and then in turn sacrifice and give to the world at large in their lifetime, and it gives me a sense of meaning and purpose. And the family unit is so valuable to a good and functioning world." And this stuff just went right over his head, and he looked at me blankly, and then he said, "Well, that sounds kind of narcissistic." And I said, "Well, that's not the word I feel about it, but okay." And then, the conversation moved along. He said, "Look, you don't need to have kids. China is having enough kids. They've got the people taken care of." I'm thinking, wow, what an interesting view on parenthood. And this was just recently, so it was just in time as I was thinking about Mother's Day. What an interesting view. There's enough people. Uh, you don't have to do that. Why would you trouble yourself? And I can almost understand a viewpoint like that if your main value and your main aspiration was to make your life as comfortable as possible, to rid yourself of obstacles, to minimize and reduce risks and stressors, then perhaps that viewpoint makes sense. But to me it's unfortunate because that viewpoint is really a viewpoint that's devoid of a spiritual aspect. If you think about it, it's just a material view. There's enough human bodies on the planet, and the planet is too crowded, so there's really no value to you participating in parenthood. First of all, that totally discounts and does not factor in human ingenuity and creativity to solve problems with inventions and technology. You'd think with advanced technology rapidly progressing the way it does, we would be able to solve a lot of problems that we didn't think we could. But putting that aside, this is just like motherhood and parenthood in general has become just a life choice. It's like, oh, I picked up a new hobby. I started playing tennis on Saturdays. Yeah, I want to have a baby. It's like, it's almost on this level of like, oh, okay, it's just one of millions of things you can do, and they're all well and good. And that's sad because that's not how God sees motherhood or parenthood, not in the least. So where we can start to kind of get our perspective here is let's just take motherhood for instance. I've told this little segment in previous sermons and talks I've given, and I've always found the reaction to it very funny. So I'm going to tell you about the reaction after I tell you, okay? In the beginning, God creates, a succession of layers of our world, right? He creates the firmament, the plants, you know, the animals. Then at the end of everything, he creates man. So with each thing mentioned in the book of Genesis in the Bible, which is really fascinating how closely and dead on accurate it is to how today people believe, all the main experts believe the world was actually created exactly like Genesis says, which is a fascinating topic, deserves its own message. But the last thing, the most, in a sense, the most developed, the most advanced thing after plants was animals, animals being much more dynamic. And then after animals, man. And then, wait a second, we forget one here. After man, not at the same time as man, but after man, meaning after Adam, then is Eve, then is woman. So, which gender is more full of complexity, depth, nuance, sensitivity? Which one would you have to say is, in a sense, superior, more elegant, more beautiful, more majestic? Hands down, it's got to be women. And now the funny part of this story is every time I've told that to an audience, when I conclude with obviously women are in some sense superior in their beauty, in their elegance, in their complexity, none of the men disagree. None of them. I've told this several times. The women are nodding yes, and the men are nodding yes in the audience. This is sort of in a way, it's like we kind of instinctively know this. Women are more nuanced, more mysterious, more maybe hard to understand. At least that's my perspective, being a guy. But then let's think about this. If that's the case, then womankind is really like the crowning jewel of God's creation. So any waterfall, any sunset, any amazing animal, any wonderful picture you see, womankind is the crowning jewel of God's artistry. That should give us pause because womankind is designed very clearly to essentially be godlike in the sense that women are the ones that nurture life into existence, the incubator of life, the nurturer, the supplementer of the life that comes generation after generation. This is very much the God, this is the divinity in humankind. Of course, it takes men and women, but that functionality is actually the highest divine functionality of the highest creation of God. I don't know how much more I can emphasize this. This is a big deal spiritually. I hope that part lands for you. It's not picking up tennis on Saturdays. This motherhood thing is no joke. This is something God has considered for eons, a tremendous amount of effort and thought and care into womankind and the state of being a mother. Is really the highest honor, the greatest privilege to participate in God's creation. You know, we don't just sit and watch God spawn human beings. We participate and we raise every child. Isn't that something? That's a tremendous honor. The spiritual weight of this should be landing here. And that's, that's comes with it is this, we have to put the framework here. The reason it is so important to our spiritual existence is because inherent in parenthood and motherhood is this unbreakable bond of love for the child. In fact, a mother giving her life for her child, no, take me, not my child, sacrificing my own life for my child, that's not a far cry for the vast majority of mothers. Total sacrifice comes with motherhood. So, it's really interesting. The secular world, and then, dare I say, I believe, the enemies of godly culture, whatever that's spiritual or otherwise, they want to make it seem so hard to have kids. Satan would love nothing more than everybody thinking it's just too hard and just too expensive to have kids. Money, 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 right? I'm guilty of having that conversation with my wife. If we just had better finances, then ... I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you have had that conversation. But Satan would love it if we were so hung up on money and if we were so hung up on how hard it is to function in our world today that we just give up on this idea. Kids, maybe just one, But, it's not an enthusiastic, let's push for another one kind of idea. It's too hard, it's too difficult. And that's an environment Satan has created on purpose. But I got to tell you the reason why. Here's the little secret. It's not because Satan cares about overpopulation, which I don't believe in, by the way. I can do a whole other talk on that. But, Satan doesn't care about the physical state of things. Oh, it's physically too crowded. No. What he cares about is the stepping into parenthood brings you closer to God. That's what he's bothered by. He's bothered by you are going to get to know the heart of God more by having children, by realizing that I love this person unconditionally and I will pour into them without expecting anything in return. That is exactly the heart of God, and that is what the enemies of God don't want you to feel, do not want you to experience, and want you to be numb and void of that. So, this is what, that numbness and that voidness of the heart is actually what is what Scripture would call spiritual death. And this is so ironic because one of the common sentiments or gripes about parenthood or about the thought of being a parent is that, oh my God, your life is over, right? Your life is over, your hobbies are gone, maybe your career is gone. But the real ironic thing about this is that when you take a look at a spiritual lens, spiritual life is different than physical life. Spiritual life is about being a person of love. I love this quote from St. Paul. Our spiritual death is the separation from God because of the hardening of our hearts. It's so clear. The hardening of our hearts, the cold, the distance from God's love, the hardening of our hearts, that is what we call spiritual death. And the opposite of that is to live for others, to pour into others without expecting anything in return, and your spirit starts to grow and you come back to life. And this, insert very epic quote from Jesus: "Those who seek to lose their life shall gain it." What does this mean? This is exactly what we're talking about. All the mothers out there that may have felt that they lost something about their life, you gained life, because the point of being here on earth is to grow the spirit. The earth is the second womb. We spend 9 months about in the first womb getting ready for the physical world. We spend multiple decades here on earth, but it is a womb growing the components of love in the soul to then live eternally in the real and final world. You have a very specific window here to grow the soul, to grow the heart, to unharden the heart, to connect back to God. And being a parent, losing a lot of the comforts, a lot of those good long sleeps that you used to have, a lot of those hobbies and TV shows, a lot of those things are gone, but you gain spiritual life. Those who seek to lose life shall gain it. So I'm not trying to minimize anybody's hardship or anybody's pain in the loss of something that they might have felt from having children or whatnot. But I'm just trying to put some perspective. Jesus is saying it. God is setting this up. You gain everything by living this life of parental love. And the mothers, that's how we should be teaching and promoting motherhood in our society. A pregnant mother should be cheered on as somebody like crossing a new level, crossing a new finish line, going to another height of the mountaintop towards God. That's the excitement, that's the energy towards which we should be looking forward to motherhood. So mothers out there, or to-be mothers out there, don't let some of the conventional gripes and, oh, it's inconvenient, and also the allure of getting your value from high-paying job or something that has lots of swag and respect. If God could tell you something right to your face, He would say, I don't care if you have a high-paying job or a low-paying job. What I care about is their love in your heart. How much love can we get into this heart here? And the most you can have is by experiencing all types of human relationships, and especially totally being responsible for and the creation of a new human being. And let's not forget, it's not just a physical pile of flesh and bone. Mothers are responsible for the creation of an eternal soul. Let that one sink in. So we can really appreciate mothers with a different lens, don't you think? Let's treat the mothers with some more care. Let's make sure we don't forget that it is our divinity at stake. this is not just a simple hobby. This is not something to scoff at, snicker at, belittle, minimize. This is something to uphold. This is something to cherish greatly. As I get older and older, I realize, you know, that's a big thing I hope for my daughter, that she would one day experience. And she's 4 years old, but she's saying, "Hey, Daddy, when I have a baby, can I push her in a stroller?" So she's already thinking about having a baby. She doesn't realize how many years that might be away, but it's really cute. It's really amazing. So let's embrace that men and women are complementary. They're yin and yang. They're supposed to harmonize and work together. They're not supposed to compete with each other and try to just, everybody's just trying to find the best job, and everybody's talking about their wage and their job, and everybody's talking about their career. The real majesty of this world is when men and women harmonize, coming together and create a bond, an unbreakable bond of love. That falling in love experience, that having a child with your eternal spouse, that is what God considers the highest divine thing you could be experiencing and doing in this world. I don't think many people are saying this in this way, so that's why I feel like I gotta say this. So definitely thank your mothers. You can never fully repay them. That much is true. But we can definitely have a reverence and a real intense gratitude for what it is to be a mother. And for all the husbands out there, let's really support the moms out there, our own moms and our wives who are moms. Let's make this life as much as we can. Let's make the environment steady, stable. Let's be responsible men. Let's be honest. Let's be apologetic when we're wrong. Let's be humble. Let's follow God the best that we can and create something solid for the women to, be able to relax into this incredible undertaking of being a mom. I think that's the best we can do, guys. The best present we can give them this Mother's Day. So that's all for this time, and I'll see you next time on the living room. God bless.